What up, FIFA Tiers, and welcome to the FUT Tiers Podcast, or should I say 2 FUT Tiers Podcast for this week, as is just me and Luke, as Brad is away. He went away for the weekend, so he's just recouping a little bit from that and long journey. So I hope you recovered nicely from that, Brad. But Luke, how are you doing today?
I'm doing alright, yeah. Missed a few days off now, not missed no days off like it was previously with the two-man booths, but I'm doing alright, mate. I'm doing alright.
And we have come away from the footies promo on FIFA. It's done and dusted, and we move into preseason. So the train, or the locomotive train of building up stuff and building up momentum and hype towards FIFA 23 begins today in some ways, or Friday, should I say. But being that said, on Friday, they did do a sort of big boo-boo mess up yet again, EA. 6 o'clock came around and people were like, where's preseason? It said that it was beginning at 6 p.m. Somehow EA have done some kind of mistake. I don't know quite what they've done on their end, but then it didn't actually physically start until 9:30 p.m. So kind of means that I think some SBCs related to that are now refreshing and starting at 9:30. I know that warm-up SBC that they have, it refreshes at 9:30 p.m, which is a bit off-putting and throws me off quite a fair bit. But there is objectives that you can build towards those packs. What are you thinking of this mess up that they've done? Long list of mess ups.
Yeah, but I'll say, where do we start? I mean, let's be honest, we all expected it. We all expect something to go wrong. We all expect either a server to go down or people not to be able to log on. This one, they just almost pretty much straight up forgot the promo was happening and went 5 minutes warning. Oh, by the way, there's a problem with it. We'll see in a bit.
Yeah. It's like somehow they forgot to flick the switch on.
It really is. It'd be fascinating to see what actually happens behind the scenes sometimes. But yeah, now that preseason's here, this is now the jumping off point where we actually get ourselves some transfer cards, right?
Yes, essentially. We've had 4 transfer cards, so we'll start off with, I think, the big talking point one, which is the showdown, Nunez versus Eriksen.
Mm-hmm.
So both 96 rated cards. We have just watched the Liverpool Man United game, so we can confirm, and this is a big surprise in some ways, Eriksen is the one that's going to be getting the upgrade.
Yeah, I went the other way. I went for the standard procedure Liverpool win A. Lamau. And part of my reasoning for that is just that I really did like the Darwin Nunez card. His Benfica card was great for me. So when I saw, I can just do this one and it potentially could be 98 rated, great. It wasn't to be, but it's still going to be a nice card. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm sure it will be.
Yeah. And the thing is in the build-up, with Liverpool looking like surely they'll be the favourites to win the game, the interesting situation was Nunez was cheaper than Eriksen, because Eriksen was a 3-part SBC, Nunez was only 2, and it was a 58k difference between the two of them, which I felt was a bit interesting, because surely if you go, like EA go, this card is the favourite to probably get the upgrade, you'd want to make that one the more expensive.
Well, not even that. You'd think, even from a different bit of logic, Eriksen's already got a high-rated United card, or not United card, a high-rated Premier League card in the 93.
Yeah, region.
Yeah, in the 93, was it Fantasy FUT? So,
yeah.
A 96 Nunez, we've got the 94 in the Liga NOS team of the season, but this is a high-rated Premier League one. You'd think they'd make that one the more expensive one for that alone, let alone them being the favourites going into this game.
And then there's the other perspective. The Liverpool SBC cards this year have been quite expensive as well.
Yeah, there's already another one in packs, or not packs, in SBCs with the 99 Salah that's out at the moment still.
Yeah.
So there's many a reason why this should have been more expensive, but hey, just like Nunez on the pitch, we are not getting him upgraded. He's received a red card at this point.
He couldn't have an effect on this game. He couldn't get himself that upgrade. That's probably what it is.
And arguably, looking at the game, it's almost, apart from Milner, and like Nunes would be the only person who would have had some passion in this game. Like no one truly looked up for it, to me. Like, we're getting into the sort of end bit here where we talk about...
We'll get back into the latest sort of situations.
But yeah, no one seemed up for it.
Talking about the other transfer cards, interesting choices that they've made. I think, personally, they could have chosen other candidates for this situation. So we've got a 99 rated Lewandowski. A Lewandowski that has a 97 team of the season and also a 98 team of the year card.
I will verify for you.
I believe it's...
I don't believe so, but it was 98. I don't remember it being 98. Okay, I was wrong.
That makes it even more interesting. So it's only a +1 over the team of the year.
It's a +1, and then multiple like the difference in the stats though is almost +3 on most things. So
yes,
dribbling +3, physical +3, passing +3, only +1 on shooting because that's all they could do. So actually, it's more probably they undersold the team of the year stats than anything to do with the 99.
And I think there's probably a weak foot upgrade, I'm guessing, and then there's some trick because I think they've been changing player traits of these cards as well, so it's probably something underlying in there as well. And then the other interesting one is Graven Birch, who again has a 95 rated team of season card. Obviously in the Eredivisie, so is a little bit off-putting for some people to want to be using. So this one being a Bundesliga card would be a bit more attractive for those that are wanting to have a Graven Birch card in their team. But again, like I'm saying, there's plenty of candidates that probably haven't even had a special card this year that you could basically choose from to give a 97, 98, 99 rated like moments transfer card, which is a bit another interesting, a moment for transfer. And it's similar to when Morata got his card for having a certain pair of shoes.
Oh, I'll never forgive him for that. Flashback to when he wore that set of boots. What a genius. Sign that person.
So now,
up.
signing any contract now is basically gonna pretty much guarantee you a card. So, you know, if with FIFA 23 and the Marvels, so if someone happens to sign a sponsorship deal with Marvel or Disney, there you go. There's a shoe-in possibility for signing a sponsorship deal with Marvel, being the face of the company or something like that.
The one that interests me though, you mentioned players. This player actually, for the moment's card, I think actually is a viable candidate in Lukaku. He only had a man of the match, I'm gonna say, before this.
Yeah, he hasn't had anything 90 plus.
Yeah, I think he had an 89 man of the match, and that's it. Yeah, him getting a 95 as the objective, I can get behind. As you say, it's a transfer that's a big transfer in some shape or form. Like it's a big player going somewhere. And actually, it's just last year's card, isn't it? It's probably his last year's tots, if he got one. But I did look into your Lewandowski query. He does have 5-star weak foot, but so does the team of the season. And there is no new traits.
Okay. Well, okay, so it's just literally stat boosts.
It's
then.
It's a combo of it's the team of the season with stat boosts, and obviously a league change. Can't forget the league change.
I was just thinking of another person, Gabriel Jesus.
That one would make a lot of sense. Maybe that's coming in down the line. Who knows? But Gabriel Jesus does make a lot of sense. This is squad 1 of preseason. Bear in mind, so he's going to be a shoo-in for down the line, whether it's striker. Or whether it's at the wing, you'd assume striker.
One other thing I would probably like to say about preseason, or how I feel at the moment, is the amount of content seems to be a bit on the low side at the moment. Like, footies, although I do probably say there's a similar amount of SBCs and stuff, but for me at the moment, it just feels like there's not really a lot to grind towards. Like, I'm starting to feel like... don't really care too much about playing FUT champs. Like Lukaku's objective card, I gotta say, in some ways, I don't really care too much about looking to grind towards that because it's only 95 rated. And at this stage, when I'm trying to maybe aim towards the 198 team, because I think that's realistically what a lot of people right now is their objective is basically kind of building that 198 team. And to build that, you're looking at needing 97 plus players.
I hear you'd need like a 99 rated French centre back, but you wouldn't know anything about that, would you?
On my second account, no. On my main account, however, I did actually put him in my team for a little bit of a period of time. How many games have I actually used for round 4? Because I was like, I want to see if he genuinely feels good in game. I've used him for 49 games, and yeah, I'm like, no, he's not too bad. Like when he activates Daddy Longlegs trait, he's fine. When you're trying to outmuscle somebody, he's fine. When he's trying to use his straight line pace, he's fine. But it's when you're trying to be a bit more nimble and trying to deal with those people that are like doing the dynamic dribbling and stuff, that's where it's a bit more of a problem, because it's like, oh no, crap, I can't turn quick enough.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I didn't touch anything. I didn't touch him or the Dembele at all. So that's not anything I'm gonna be learning.
I think that is probably as much as we can really cover in pre-season, other than maybe the 85 plus times 10 is refreshed
I was about to get onto
give
this.
You an extra.
I was about to get
an extra
that.
Daily one.
Because you, I believe, you had a bit of a scrap with Mr. Sheriff about this. Or you've at least had a message.
Yeah, kind of. It's just generally that everybody that I'm seeing that's whinging and whining about this, going, oh, make it unlimited right now. If you call back to last year, it wasn't until September. Apparently, it was September the 5th, according to Kofta, that he put in Discord today.
I saw someone else say 7th,
so,
but yeah, around that time, for sure.
That's 2 weeks' time from now. I think if you do it too early, you burn out a little bit, probably quicker, and you don't kind of want that. I want that a bit later on, where like in September, when I'm definitely not doing champs, because at that point it's pretty much towards the end of champs and there's not really much more, and I really just want to be like proper chilled out and just go like full ham on creating these 85 pluses and then recycling them into other SBCs and stuff. And just people whinging and whining about it right now, like patience, right? First of all, not everything is in packs. They usually wait until everything, and I mean everything, is in packs, because at the moment they're doing it in stages. Like you got like the batch 1 of pre-season, like they had with footies and stuff. Whereas you want everything in the packs, because there's still top tier cards that aren't currently sat in packs right now.
No, Messi being the main one.
But what are your feelings then towards it?
I mean, I agree, but the problem that EA have is the fact that they purely did it last year. It doesn't matter whether they did it in September. The problem they're going to get is people didn't know it was coming last year. People know that this is in the pipeline and are almost trying to pressure it out early. Like, you'd have seen rumours and, oh, what's this 85 times 10 pack that's come out here in the code last year? Now, we know this is happening. We want it now. We just want to get this out the way and done. People just want to get FIFA 22 out the door and done. Like, get their 198 squads. Don't touch FIFA again. Go play something else. I get that. But EA want to drag this out as long as they can, and they know that they've got last year's timing to fall back on. So they're not going to suddenly push this out the door because someone's going to say, oh, I'm not playing if they don't release it tonight. I'm gone. I'm done with it. A couple of people doing that, or maybe even a couple thousand people doing that, they won't care. As long as they've got your pre-order for next year, which they've got me for sure, I assume they've got you, Mers, and I'd assume Brad as well, they've got you already. So they don't really care how much you do into this if you're going to say, I'm not playing this now. That this isn't where they make their FIFA points. This isn't where stuff like that's relevant. This is just the end of the cycle. Like, they'll push a couple things out, slowly give you what you want. If you play, you play. But so long as you're here for next year, they're all fine.
Exactly. They've got to catch those stragglers, and if they go in too early, and with the beta being out a little bit, and FIFA 23 news, and if anything, if people stop playing the 23 and being like in this euphoria mode, you know, like feeling happy about things because they're packing crazy things, and then they're like, oh wait, let's focus on FIFA 23. What's this? I see this clip of this bad goalkeeping. What's this? I see bad news. Like, because people will focus on the negativity side of things, and then those few stragglers might go, well, actually now I don't really want to pre-order FIFA 23, whereas keep them happy until the last minute. FIFA 23 comes out and they're like, oh, do you know what, I want to get FIFA 23 now.
The thing is, it's human nature to look, like, I can tell you, as someone who's a person who looks at negatives all the time, I view myself as a natural pessimist. It's human nature almost. You just look for the disappointment in certain things. You look for the downsides, and what's this? Oh, sure, roll your eyes. It's just natural, pretty much. At least it comes natural to me.
Yes, pretty much. But yeah, other than that, obviously you have a special icon SBC as well. Actually, talking about unique things. So it's like the top three nations. So it's Brazil, France and Netherlands, and it's a 93 plus player pick, I believe. Let me just load it up right now. Yeah, so it's 93 plus nation specific icon moments player pick, 1 of 4 as well, which isn't too bad. France, Brazil or Netherlands, 93 rated overall or higher. So pretty much you got obviously your Pelés, your R9 Ronaldos, then you got like Zidane, got Hullet as well, Cruyff, like you got some good ones. Obviously you'll have a few downers in that as well, but 1 of 4, we're not too bad, but it is a bit on the high side in terms of the requirements. 92, 91, 90, 90 rated squads for those. So definitely probably would need a repeatable 845 plus for that, but you're not going to get it because it expires in 5 days time. Other than that, we'll move on to real world football, and I think we will mainly talk about 3 games in particular. So we've got to figure out which one should we talk about first. So
we'll cover the
3 games in particular.
We already started covering one, right? So
let's continue on with that then. So obviously Man United versus Liverpool, final score 2-1. Very interesting result, shall we say, judging by how things have played out in the first 2 weeks for both teams.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting start to the season for both of them. United finally off the mark, which is not a phrase you expect to say game week 3. And Liverpool yet to score a win. It's baffling. It's why you love the Premier League in the same way, though. Results like this, results like we'll get to in a minute. It's the beauty of the Premier League is you'll see upsets like this happen. It's like when City was it lost to Palace? Was it drew to Palace? Stuff like that. When that happens, it makes the title race interesting. We just got to hope, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, so we're relying on the North London clubs to try and stay with City.
Wow.
This is not 2016.
But going by the table at the moment, I mean, City are the ones that are having to keep up with a good old Arsenal by the looks of things, but I think we'll cover that a bit later, obviously, the result. But one thing I would like to say about Liverpool in some ways is maybe a lot of talk has been said about Man United and their transfer policy at the moment. Could Liverpool have a similar situation? You look at last summer in some ways, right? They only signed Konate as a major signing. In January, it was Luis Diaz. This summer, you've had Nunez. You've had a backup right back signed, and I think they've had 1 or two maybe like young players also signed, but squad depth wise, like yes, they have injury problems, but this isn't the first time that they've had injury problems as well. Maybe they should have been looking to improve that squad depth a little bit more, so that when they're in situations like the last 3 weeks, they could have maybe have done a little bit more to turn the results in their favour.
Yeah, I think the Thiago injury is unfortunate, and it's something I think if they're going to look to get depth anywhere, it would be centre mid. Apart from that, I don't see where they particularly need to change too much. Obviously,
maybe the attack.
Maybe. So even in today's game, Carvalho looked solid as one of the forwards brought in this summer. He looked like he actually brought some almost intensity, I guess, but he put in the effort. But is it, as much as everyone loves a bit of James Milner and something like that, I think as much as he was berating Van Dijk, I saw him constantly bickering with Van Dijk this game. I don't know if it was saying that Van Dijk wasn't putting enough effort in or what it was, but yeah, you've got to say at a certain point that Milner isn't good enough to be starting week in, week out. I know it's because he's a backup, but how old is he now? 36? This is a guy that was like 16 at Leeds in like 2003 or something like that.
Yeah.
He shouldn't really be getting game time. You can be a great sort of servant to the club, almost as if to come on for a few minutes at the end or to motivate the team in training or something like that, because the man's got passion. He still loves the game. I wouldn't even be surprised if Klopp puts him on his coaching staff after he retires. But I just don't think he's got it anymore to be the backup. To be almost the rotation.
He's more the experienced head, realistically. Like you say, like maybe just somebody there for the changing room, so that he can give the pep talks and stuff like that to certain players, maybe, because obviously he's been around the block in the Premier League. He's been in quite a few good teams and squads. Like obviously he was at Man City for a good amount of time as well, so he's obviously properly been up there at the highest level. But yeah, like you say, I just don't feel like he's somebody that you could rely on in certain games. And I feel like, again, this sort of game might have been one of them. But due to injuries, they kind of had no other choice. But then again, Fabinho didn't start this game. So maybe it should have been Fabinho starting instead of Milner. And then Fabinho could have offered that little bit more defensive stability.
Yeah, I agree Fabinho should probably be starting this game, especially when United are unveiling a brand new holding midfielder that's also Brazilian. You'd think that Liverpool would always want to rub it in their faces that they've got Fabinho and perform a shutout in a way, but Milner's what, 5th choice centre mid, 6th if you include Fabinho in here, because Naby Keita's out ill and Thiago. They got Harvey Elliott starting with Henderson and then Fabinho. That puts him about 6th in the pecking order. So would Liverpool be expecting to play him this early in the season? It's a lot of two midfielders missing already 3 games in. Is a lot to be predicting that to happen. So maybe they'll be fine, but they need to pick something up. And defensively, they looked very ordinary today. Yeah, that's my concern. Maybe with Fabinho not playing, they lack the protection. But something I found interesting was one of the commentators, I don't remember who it was, said that this was the 3rd different centre-back partner that Van Dijk's had this season. There's only 3 games. He's played with Gomez, he's played with Konate, and he's played with Matip.
Konate's injured, and then obviously they had to play Gomez. But it reminds me of when they had the injury problems at the back.
Matip, sorry, it was it would have been Nat Phillips. Sorry, last week. Apologies.
Yeah, what's going on? They're gonna have to obviously do maybe what Man United have done, recuperate. Like maybe they're gonna have to have no day off, go straight into that training room, make some hard choices, and look to next week and improve in it, because they realistically, if they want to be in the sort of title contention for this season, I know it's only 3 games in, but if you drop points and give Man City that opportunity to have that buffer, then obviously it's all on Man City, isn't it then? And Man City, which we'll go into now, which is Man City did drop some points this week, but it was a very entertaining game between Man City and Newcastle. Newcastle, obviously, with the new signings and stuff like that they've made and showing what they're capable of and moving up yet another level, in my opinion. And unfortunately, they were 3-1 up and did lose that 2-goal lead to then finish 3-3 in the end. But St. Maximan, oh, blimey, he was causing Man City issues left, right and centre.
Yeah, St. Maximin he had, Stones and Walker on strings.
Yeah.
He had them
constantly going at them.
Walker made the mistake. So I'm thinking about, the second goal here, where Walker's gone for a header that he's then just left St. Maximin with Stones, and he's just done him for pace. Got the ball into Wilson. Great little turn from Wilson, by the way. Great movement. Ends up spinning Diaz inside out and a decent finish to boot. But the thing that I'm interested in, Mers, what's your take on the red card that was rescinded? That is a big turning point in this game. If that red card stands, Man City probably go on to win this game.
I actually genuinely think it is just a yellow card. I don't think it is a red card offence. Yes, it is intentional, and yes, his feet are a bit up, but it's not directly at Kevin De Bruyne. It's in front of Kevin De Bruyne, so it's more of a trip than anything. And if it was literally directly into the side of Kevin De Bruyne, like almost like leg break style, then I'll be like, yeah, no doubts about it. Red card, get him off the pitch and stuff. But I feel, he was just like, it probably wasn't really that essential because obviously there was still other defenders. It wasn't like a last man sort of situation trying to stop him going through on goal or something like that. But it was a tiny bit reckless, but I would 100% say it's a yellow, not a red. What's your feelings on it, though?
I'd be inclined to agree with you. I'm just a bit shocked at one thing in particular with this. How often do you see a decision like this for a tackle of that height being overturned? I thought as soon as they saw the height of it, that VAR would side with the on-field referee.
Not often, but I think, like I say, because it was in front of Kevin De Bruyne rather than literally right on Kevin De Bruyne, gives him that little bit of leeway to have it rescinded. I think if it was literally straight at the side of him, full on, it just would not have changed the decision at all.
Because when I look at that one, I would have thought if that wasn't given, then it stays as a yellow card, and it would be one of those that, well, it's been given, is there enough to overturn it, sort of a deal. So one of those ones where you'd think VAR will go, do you know what, the on-field referee's seen this, I can get that, and it would stand. And the ref had a good look at it. He had to consider it a lot to overturn it. So it's going to be interesting. People have said, that sets a precedent and stuff like that from now on, because of course they do. I do agree that it was a tactical foul. It's obviously the height that people are now going to compare this tackle to something else down the line. You can see it happening already. You can tell that someone's going to go, well, Trippier was able to tackle this height. Why is Eric Dyer not able to? I was just thinking for a random player. But why is Eric Dyer not able to? And that's a red card. You can see that's going to be one of those ones in the same way the hair pull Romero sort of thing is going to be looked at. And, well, if that's not a thing, then why is this?
Yeah, but you're going to get that all the time anyway. So It's like when you see someone like elbow somebody or somebody push somebody or something like that, and one person gets a red card and the other doesn't. It's always comparable. It's just how football works, and yeah, in every sport, to be fair, like say even rugby or something like that, you probably get similar sort of situations where one foul gets a certain punishment, but the other one gets a more severe punishment.
Who do you take, as a side question here, who do you take as England's number one to the World Cup? Do you take Aaron Ramsdale or do you take Nick Pope?
I know, just because this isn't personal preference, this is just because of how how England will play. It's Ramsdale because the more ball playing ability from the back. But personally, I'd say Nick Pope, just because obviously that extra height can offer that little bit more. I feel like Nick Pope's decisions, like there was a situation where he took the ball off of Silky, and if that was mistimed, that would have been a penalty because he would have gone down, he would have caught Gundogan, and that could have again cost them the game. But he perfectly took that nicely, got the ball, done, dusted, goes up. Another situation is obviously the ability to pick it out from the air as well for crosses and stuff. I think it just offers that a little bit more. I don't always care so much about having this like play from the back and having a ball playing goalkeeper. I know this is just how the modern game is, but sometimes it's just nice to have something like a Nick Pope.
And we'll get into ball playing goalkeepers in a minute, but for me, I thought you were going to mention a different moment of Nick Pope's there, where he's got the one-on-one with Haaland and he tries to slot it low, and because of how tall Pope is, he's managed to get down quickly to his left, and still got his legs down to the right, which is able to stop the ball rolling between his legs. That one impressed me a lot as a goalkeeper.
But I feel like that was a little bit like poor decision making from Haaland. A little bit like wanting to turn it onto his left. Like, is he left-footed or something like that?
Yeah, Haaland's definitely left-footed. Like, he's 3-star left-footed. This is well known.
Okay, that would explain it all. Because I was like looking at that, I was like, why don't you just like try and chip it a little bit or something like that with your right, rather than trying to finesse it kind of situation with your left? Because then it just kind of changes the momentum then, and takes an extra step as well to kind of do that, and then you're just like right next to the goalkeeper.
What a free kick, by the way, from Kieran Trippier. It's a beautifully hit free kick. Curl. You don't expect him to curl it in that side. From that position, a similar position to the World Cup free kick, right? Maybe a little bit more central, but
something along those lines. Yeah,
you expect him to go for the right hand corner, and he's picked out the top left beautifully, curled finish as well. So fair play to him on that. I remember being incredibly excited about that, even though it meant Arsenal were top of the league. That results like this against City. No offence to Arsenal. Arsenal are a very good team at the moment, very good rebuild. Most players are under 25. You might think later in the season that might cause a bit of inexperience or maybe a poorly timed injury to Saliba or something. Could not derail the season fully, but it's more likely that Arsenal trip up than Man City. So that's why I've got some comfort in the fact that City tripped up against Newcastle here. But Newcastle are very much a threat.
They are. I mean, to be fair, I've got to say, a lot of teams are looking like a threat. And the next team, this was again another very big unexpected result. Leeds United winning 3-0 against Chelsea. Apparently a solid defensive Chelsea losing 3-0. Like, mind blown right there.
The thing is, I'd said something about this game after the Spurs game. I can't remember if it was on the podcast or I said it somewhere. This could just be Chelsea showing up for the big game against Spurs like they always do. I said I wouldn't be surprised if they got a draw against Leeds. I said a draw, not a 3-0. But I thought Chelsea will just drop points. Something about the intensity, about how important that game against Tottenham was. They spoke about how it was Spurs' cup final last week, yet the mentality, they've turned up as if this is just some ordinary game against Leeds. I swear there's like a small little rival between Leeds and Chelsea. I swear a lot of Leeds chants feature Chelsea in some way. It's sort of an old forgotten rivalry. But
potentially, obviously, the main known rival to Leeds is obviously Man United, so I can't really comment whether Chelsea's like an ancient rival or anything like that for Leeds.
I feel Leeds fans really don't like Chelsea, and Chelsea don't really like Leeds. It's not to the level of Spurs or Arsenal rivalry, but yeah, Chelsea just looked really, really ordinary, and Tuchel's not even served his touchline ban yet, which that's almost twice as bad now, because if they'd have taken it in this game, you may have had the excuse of Tuchel not being there or something like that, that it's messed them up a bit, but they just didn't seem up for it. It's not like even last week against Spurs where Chelsea were wasteful, which I still think is a big part of why they didn't beat Spurs. Yes, there's a controversial decision, but they were so wasteful last week. They weren't even wasteful this week. They didn't even really get any chances.
Nope. A stat that I saw whilst watching the game, I think it was about in the 75th minute or something like that, Leeds had covered 10 kilometres more ground than Chelsea at that point in the game. That is a big difference.
Yeah.
Between two teams, like especially a top tier team as well. Like Chelsea, I thought were meant to be like maybe this like pressing team or stuff like that, but obviously they just did not show up whatsoever. And the problem is then Koulibaly got a red card as well,
unnecessary,
which is not gonna
very unnecessary.
Yeah, so he's gonna be missing out for the next game, and I don't know how true this was, but on the Sky Sports thing, it was showing them playing a normal free back with the wing backs, and it showed Reece James playing at centre back.
Yeah, so I believe the way that they played, and I could be wrong with this, is that they try and almost play Reece James when defensively as a centre back and Loftus-Cheek as a right back, so that when they go offensively, almost to have an extra midfielder, Loftus-Cheek drops into midfield and then James goes out wide. I believe that's what they're trying to do. It's what they did last week, and they tried to implement this week.
Okay, I mean, just showing that they probably are clearly, as Brad would, if Brad was here, he would be saying this is the type of performance and situation that is showing why they need to get more centre backs because of all the centre backs that they lost.
Yeah, it's why they're interested in Fofana so much.
Whether they get him or not is a different matter, because Leicester are being stubborn and not wanting to sell up.
I mean, they're asking for Harry Maguire levels of money, which is always worrying. A Leicester centre half for 80-odd million, it's not really worth the punt. I mean, it's a good thing most people turned down Kaglar-Soyuncu. Like, they were quoting a stupid amount of money for him at one point, and he now looks distinctly average. And not even average, distinctly average. That one season he had, what was it, 2020? It was really good. And then suddenly he's nowhere. Ever since crowds came back, nothing. Euros, nothing. You mentioned the sort of difference in distance. The other game where there was a big difference in distance covered last week was the United-Brentford match. That was 13 kilometres difference and 10k, as you say, between Chelsea and Leeds. And that's two big sides getting caught out by a smaller side putting in a lot of effort.
And I think this is what's going to make this season very interesting. Even though we are only 3 games in, there's been a lot of interesting results already. Some of the smaller teams at the moment putting in performances that are quite a little bit unexpected, like Leeds, for instance. I know Crystal Palace kind of expected it, and I kind of wish that I put Crystal Palace higher up in my predictions. I kind of think I should have put them in the top half.
It crosses your mind, but then you think you can't say United bottom half, or you can't do something like that. There's certain things you can't attribute for
There's certain things you can't say, but if the smaller teams, like again your Fulhams and stuff like that, although they had to do a last minute sort of situation to get 3 points, but again, another team that looks like they're playing quite solid. They got a result against, well, it was a draw, but they still played well against Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
So anything can happen. Anything can happen, and I think this is going to be an entertaining season. And we have to see what week 4 has in store for the Premier League.
Indeed, but we need I want to touch quickly on the Edouard Mendy thing, though. We didn't talk about this. What was he doing?
His mistake. Yeah.
How De Gea last week and Mendy this week, is ball playing philosophy? We mentioned it with Ramsdale being in the England squad, we expect, because of this. At a certain point, do you either just get a new goalkeeper? Because do you still rate Edouard Mendy is a question I'm going to ask here. Do you think he's still a top tier goalkeeper, or do you think he's just good or okay? Because he's done a few things like this now.
I think he is a good goalkeeper. I generally, and I'm going to say it yet again, Thomas Tuchel, I think he's a bit overrated as a manager, and I still think he's going to get sacked this season. I think if you change the manager, I think you might see a bit more better out of Mendy. I think it's just a case of system, maybe, and current situation in particular, maybe bringing out those flaws. Kind of similar to what they say with like David De Gea, because even David De Gea had his moments like last season, but they were still saying obviously he was like one of their best players, and was one of the main reasons why they managed to finish where they did. Otherwise they would have finished lower down the table. I just think sometimes it's just about what you have sometimes in front of you. Even though yes, Thiago Silva and Koulibaly and stuff are good centre backs and stuff, but if the system's not right, sometimes the flaws come out.
I just think if you've got a shot stopper keeper that's not good with his feet, I suddenly wouldn't expect Antonio Conte to be getting Hugo Lloris, Mr. One-Footed Wonder left foot, to suddenly start playing expansive ball-playing football. I expect if Lloris gets pressured, you kick it out of play. You kick it long. You don't look for a pass. You don't try and do a Cruyff turn. There is a reason that Klopp got on Alisson when he did that with Iheanacho back in the day. You don't see Alisson prat about too much, but that's a player that is actually comfortable with the ball at his feet. So Alisson will play out from the back, and that's because Alisson's good with his feet. Same with Ederson. Edouard Mendy and David De Gea are not those kinds of players, so they don't fit the philosophy of the managers, and maybe they need to go elsewhere if they don't, because they're not going to suddenly fix that problem because, oh look, that's my philosophy, you get with it. No, you get with it or you replace them.
Exactly. They're old school. They're old school style goalkeepers. Whereas obviously like Ederson probably has a few flaws as a shot stopper potentially, but he has a good defence in front of him. But he is probably the best ball playing goalkeeper, I guess, in the league at the moment.
Either him or Alisson, you'd have to say.
Yeah, definitely. But I think that is generally it. Obviously, Arsenal got a victory with quick touch-ups. Obviously, Arsenal got a victory and the only team to have 3 wins out of 3 so far this season. Spurs managed to collect 3 points against Wolves. Obviously, it was only a 1-0. But
deserve it.
But then again, it's Wolves at the end of the day. Like if there's few teams that you go, yeah, this is not going to be goalfest. It's going to be a very tough match to try and get result against. Obviously, Wolves, Brighton are like the first 2 names that I can think of for that sort of situation.
The thing is, Wolves were in control of that game up till half time. It was one-way traffic. When I was looking at the stats, because I was out at the time, I'm pretty certain I was about 30 minutes in and Spurs hadn't registered a shot of any kind, let alone on target, and I think it was 5-2 for Wolves in that regard. So yeah, Wolves, as much as it says 1-0 and it was a cagey affair, it was fairly one-way traffic the first half. And it was in the second half where things changed.
But we will obviously talk about more of football and stuff next week in FIFA. But that is it for this week's main podcast. Luke, thank you for being on the podcast as always.
No problem at all.
Thank you to everybody that has listened to the podcast, and we will see. Well, actually, no, wait, first.
Ooh.
There obviously will be the Extra Time podcast later in the week, which will be featuring our Q&A and hot takes. So more FIFA. No, well, yeah, there will be potentially a little bit of FIFA, but mainly football-related questions by looks of things and a few hot takes. So make sure to check that out later in the week. But we will see you all in the next episode. Bye-bye, guys.
Peace out, guys.